What's up, y'all? It's your boy, Shaka Antoine. Welcome back to the channel. And in today's video, we're going to be looking at what's in my bag for the fall run of 2023. So let's get right started. We're going to first look into the big pouch. This is an ODM 3.5 tube bag. So let's go straight ahead and look in the bag to see what is there. Now I'm going to fold these flaps, try and get everything out of the way. Hopefully everything or nothing won't get stuck as I load my bag up. Bad habit, I guess, but you know, I just like to be prepared for every situation rather than packing my bag for each trip or each location. So I just generally put whatever I know that I normally use and need for the fall run specifically. All right, so let's start over here to the right. We got the first tube, which I typically will put most of my Topwater plugs or pencils. I'm going to start off with the Guppy Jr. This is, of course, the yellow over white. And I like to always put a single dressed hook. These dressed hooks are made by my boy Al. I put them on almost all of my plugs, especially for the fall. I'd rather use a single hook rather than the treble. All right, so that's what that's my first go-to Topwater plug for the fall. For the next plug, it's going to be a plug that I actually found on my last trip to the canal. I'm not sure who the builder is, but this looks a lot like an Outcast pencil, but I don't know. You never know. This is not really marked. So I typically will separate the canal plugs from the fall plugs that I use off the canal, but I'm going to experiment with this one because it's rather heavy and it flies rather far. It did not come with the single dressed hook. As I just previously said, I like to put single dressed hooks on a lot of my rear, for the rear hook on a lot of my plugs, especially for the fall. I usually like to go with yellow because if you think about Bunker, their tails appear to be yellow. So I just try to, match the hatch. And if this thing flies pretty well, even in a crosswind. So I'm going to be experimenting with this in the fall. Big plug, big fish, right? So hopefully this thing will last because I see here that the clear coat on the bottom section only is missing, but it has it on the top. So we're going to see how this goes. We're going to be experimenting with this. All right, so the next Topwater plug is going to be one that I typically would use if bluefish are around, or if I see they're being kind of funny or finicky, or if I need to cast in the distance. This is a Super Strike popper here. It's a Polaris style, but I believe they call it the little neck popper. It is the heavy one, so you see it has the red eye. It is pretty heavy, and I like to cast this when I need some distance. Mullet are around. Mullet are long gone at this point, but sometimes they're on blue. Or if it being that it's plastic, if I know that bluefish are around, I wouldn't mind using this because it will last against the toothy predators. But again, another single dressed hook made by my boy Al, and this one is blue. They like the blue ones when they don't like the yellow ones. All right, now I also, for Topwater, keep one of these bad boys around. I believe it's a Rocket Man. If you know, you know. But this thing is heavy, very heavy, and is rigged very nicely with a swivel on it. Additional swivel and split ring, so that the bass won't be able to get leverage and rip it out of their mouth. Man, I can't tell you, the weight is like close to 4 ounces. If this thing flies, especially when the bunker are pretty far away, and you know what you need to do. I also am deciding to keep, if it comes out of the bag, it will be perfect, but this thing often gets stuck. All right, let's see if I can get it out. Got it out. Going to be a spook. I believe this one is the dock, the big one. I need to change these hooks, but yeah, I haven't. Definitely should always keep a spook in the bag. You never know. I've seen or had times when they would just really smash in spooks. I don't cast it as much, but that's, it's good to have on hand just in case. All right, so that's going to top off the Topwater presentations. Now let's move right along to the next tube in the middle, which I tend to keep a lot of metal lips. Metal lips are typically used in the spring, but you never know when they might, smash a metal lip. I forget who makes this one. Has the initial, or it looks like R19, but I do remember I got this in 2019 at one of the shows. And this is like a slim type metal lip. And I'm trying to keep this in the bag for this fall, mainly because of my boy Lou, man. He got himself his personal best 52-pounder, not on this builder's plug, but it was a plug that was similarly profiled to this. It was long, big, wasn't so wide, it was rather slim. And so I'm going to keep this in the bag just in case we're around some big girls and some nice metal lip water, and just to kind of see what happens. It's a nice size, nice color. It's blue, light blue, with a nice pearl on the side here, and I think that will pretty much represent herring well, even though we're not really in we're not going to be experiencing or having any herring around, but you never know. All right, so that's one metal lip swimmer. Now I will always carry this Gibbs around as well because I love the action of this thing. It has the most seductive S pattern wobble. This thing swims beautifully, and if they're hitting metal lip swimmers, then I want to have this Gibbs Danny in my bag as well. All right, the next plug is going to be a magic swimmer. Now I have been trying very hard to get a fish on a magic swimmer off of the canal. I have been unsuccessful, but I'm still trying. And this one here is rigged a little bit differently. I have the chartreuse, however way you say that, flag. It's not there's no hook on it, it's just a flag, it's just for action. And it swims beautifully. This plug swims beautifully. Everybody knows, or if you don't know, you know, the metal lip, the magic swimmers has the most seductive S pattern, man. But I just have been unsuccessful at getting a fish to hit it while off the canal. And I'm on a mission to make that happen with this one. This is why I constantly carry this. If I notice that there are big adult bunker around, they're in close or what have you, I will be throwing this. Happy that that went back in the bag. All right, so let's go straight on to the next tube. Now this next tube is a classic fall time lineup. This is like stapled in my mind for not just even the fall, but just fishing, period. Like you'll almost never find me without a darter. And I usually carry it in two variants, or two variations rather. The first one is going to be a yellow over white super strike darter. Okay, I like to rig mine exactly how it is year round. I'll put a white a white dressed hook by my boy Al, of course, on the rear. I'll put the 3/0 on the front, or leave the 3/0 on the front, and just leave it like that. This here has caught me so many fish. They work, they work, they work. That's why whenever, it doesn't matter the season typically, except on the canal. I won't carry it on the canal. But that's about it. But everywhere else and every other season, yellow over white super strike darter will always be in the bag. Now the other variation is going to be, just one of my personal favorites, is the blue. Blue over white with the blue single hook in the back. I've had plenty of times in Montauk when they would not touch the yellow over white, but they will be touching the blue over white. All right, so I'll always be fishing with a super strike darter, no matter what time of season it is. All right, and the next plug to come out of the bag is going to be the super strike bottle. Yellow over white, the one with the BBs. Man, I'm telling you, I don't know, this plug just works. Big baits around, bunker, rough water, you want to have a bottle. Now there have been situations wherein they didn't want to touch, and some locations they don't want the yellow over white. Then in that case or scenario, we have the green. I've done pretty well with this in the springtime. So if I notice that they're being finicky with colors, I'll throw this out and then they respond. All right, and that's a super strike. And then the next staple is a needlefish. Yellow over white is what I would usually start out with. This one has a lovely single hook on the rear. This is the heavy one, so you see it has the red eye. Yeah, this has been magical at times, you know, baby weak fish around, or sometimes even sand eels. But yeah, at night, it's mostly when this will work. I would toss this. Now I have a few different variations of needles that I like to keep in the bag. Okay, I'm gonna put this one here. That variation. The next variation is going to be this second super strike needle. This is the larger one. It is a heavy weighted one, so you see it has the red eye, but it is the larger one. I don't know if that's going to come out on camera, but it's bigger than this one. They're both the heavy weighted. This one is all white. Now this one I will use under heavy conditions, either high winds or rough water. Preferably deeper water because it is a little bit on the heavier side. But I find that if I needed to punch through and they're on a needlefish, this will be the one that I'm going to go for, right? But there is also a third variation, which is going to be this one right here. This was like a sand eel pattern super strike needlefish. If they call it Mr. Ely or something, or Ely. If I notice that they're on sand eels, the big sand eels around, I'm definitely going to go for this one. It's the yellow-eyed one. It's a lot less weight than this one, but it is the same size as the heavy-weighted one. Now, I don't have a dressed hook on the rear of this because, I don't know, I'm finding that needlefish are pretty delicate in terms of how you rig them. So I typically try to stick to however they come. Because I have another super strike one that I've never ever been able to get a fish on, and I messed with the rear hook on that one, so I figured that probably was the reason. Yeah, but that's it. Needlefish are definitely a staple. So they're all super strike. Daughter bottle needle, all time, anytime, except on the canal is when I'll be using these plugs. Okay, so one other plug that's going to live in my bag forever and is primarily used for topwater situations, but when there are nothing but bluefish around, or if I decide to just start bluefishing and the bluefish are hitting plugs on top, then I will always go. If you're a long-time subscriber of my channel, you'll know what this is. This is the tension lure. This is like, man, something that I used to never, and I still don't leave go fishing without, but I primarily specifically use it for when I'm bluefishing, or if I notice there's too much bluefish around and hitting on top. You cast this out, straight retrieve, and it makes the action just like a pencil, and this sound. The bluefish tend to love that, man. As long as they're responding on top, they'll be smashing this thing. I have too many very nice bluefish bites with that, and that will never come out of the bag. All right, so moving right along to the half tube, as ODM likes to call it. That's over here on the side. Now in this tube, I only keep my Minnow plugs. Only keep Minnow plugs. And I'll actually have these on the canal as well for when the Macs are in, just a small variation. This baby right here, the Mag Daughter, is the larger one. As you can see, man, it's seen plenty of fish. There's also hook rash, that's this. But all these others, that's fish, man. And you know, bluefish doesn't matter, bass. There have been times, you know, in the fall when they don't want nothing else but the Mag Daughter. The redhead is my favorite pattern to use. I've had way more success on the redhead with the smaller 5-ounce version in the fall, catching stripers, bluefish, and even fluke in the same night. Oh man, just a plug that I don't like to even fish without. I've used this on the canal as well and have done pretty well. All right, and the next one is, now this is specific, this pattern of plug is specific to the fall. I believe it's a Hydro Minnow. If I got that wrong, I'll put the correct name on the screen. But this is like a herring, blue herring pattern. I like to use this in the fall for first light. You know, the sky is kind of bluish like this, and I believe it just blends in well and the fish respond to it well. Love how it casts, swims pretty nice. Nice weight on it. You can cast it pretty far, further than SP Minnows. All right, the next Minnow plug that I will use, none other than the classic SP Minnow. All I have right at the moment are sand eel patterns, which is really beat up, and this macro pattern. I'll use this on the canal also, but specifically for the fall. SP Minnow, I don't bring this out the bag much anymore because I find, you know, just like I mentioned in the video I've made a couple of years ago, that's called SP Minnow, the Tale of Two Cities. I find that off the canal, you kind of hit a cap with the size class of fish you'll catch of 18 pounds. Can you catch fish bigger than 18 pounds with an SP Minnow? Yes, it does happen, but it's very rare. I just find that no matter what, I guess it's the swimming action because it's so erratic that smaller fish will tend to go after that. Larger fish will want something that's going to dart. And this doesn't do that. So, but that wraps up the 3.5 tubes of plugs that I use for the fall. But let's go now look at my front pouch. And in my front pouch is where you will find my soft plastics. Okay. Glad that folds up there pretty nicely. My soft plastics. Soft plastics are just an absolute favorite. Let's just go for one that no one should ever leave without, which is going to be the Owl Gag. Here in this that pearl white 2 ounce. Man, this thing is deadly. As a matter of fact, this plug is responsible for allowing me to catch my personal best fish thus far, being a 38-pound striped bass. I caught a couple of years ago right on this plug. We were banging fish that day, but ever since then, you know, using this off of the canal kind of showed me a lot. You know, instead of using a bucktail, sometimes you can use this. In scenarios where you'll be needing a bucktail, you don't have a bucktail, definitely can use this. Done well with it. Right, that's like my favorite. Now also, speaking of favorites, let's just go to mega shads or rat tails. This one is a zinger baits. I forget the name that he calls it specifically, but it's basically a rat tail or a mega shad, basically, in the black over red. Done quite a bit of damage with this. I have it on a 2 ounce jig head, and this has been, I've done very well with these on the canal, so I naturally would use it everywhere else, and yeah, this works pretty good at night. What else do I have in here? I also have a smaller variation of the Owl Gag. This one was a 6-inch. This one is a 5-inch. Same 2 ounce, but you know, just in case there are smaller baits around, smaller presentations sometimes can bring them in, especially when they're on peanuts. And to go even smaller, there are times when they get really finicky. They're on really small peanuts. You can get them to respond with this like tsunami shad. Very light. I actually hate casting this thing, but you know, last year I believe it was, man, fish were on peanuts, and this was the only thing that they would respond to. All right, let's see what's next. Oh, this one right here. Sand eel. My goodness, tsunami sand eel. Ooh, there was a year where every day we were catching like at least 50 fish every day only with this plug. And it's like they only wanted this. It was a massive sand eel run. This thing was just slaying fish. So ever since then, I would always carry that in the bag just in case they're close. They really don't cast that far, but if they're on sand eels, they usually are pretty close to shore. We won't need to cast too far. And like I said, that year this worked so well, I will not leave without it. I won't fish without it during the fall. All right, next let's go to a bucktail. This bucktail, and it's an old one. It's beat up. It's been fished with bluefish for so long. It's missing a lot of hair. I was supposed to get another one. I just recently lost my last bucktail in the canal. was trying to order one, and who would know that it'd be so hard to get a bucktail nowadays in the 2 ounce or 2.5 specifically. Really wanted a 2.5, but I couldn't find one. So yeah, 2.5 ounces of bucktail weight that I will never fish without. There are some very specific locations that I like to fish during the fall that if you don't have a 2.5 ounce bucktail, you will not be catching. But if you do, you will be catching. Right, and I like to use Fat Cow jig strips, or if not Fat Cow, then I'll do it. I forget the name of that other one, but I prefer Fat Cow jig strips. All right, now another staple for me in the fall of diamond jigs with my boy Al's dressed hooks on them. This one is a A17. You know, when they're on sand eels, these are lethal, man. Or if I need good distance, I'll go up to the A47. All right, it's the A47 with the yellow. All right, if I know that they're on bunker or they're on, you know, small baits or what have you, and I need distance, the A47, that will definitely bring them in. And I can cast that really far because of that weight. Right, another variation is when they're really picky, they're on blue sometimes. Same thing, A17 blue dressed hook. I love using these instead of diamond jigs. Instead of diamond jigs with the tubes on the end. I like the swimming action of the dressed hook far more. Or if they're on the peanuts and being really picky, gotta go with the Hopkins. Gotta go with the Hopkins. That looks a lot like a peanut. Of course, dressed hook, dressed stingle on the rear. Perfect. But even sometimes, man, there are some scenarios when they are just on really small baits, or if I want to fish for albies, I'll use this here. I believe this is a hoagie. It's in the 2 ounce range. You know, really nice. One single hook on there, casts really well. All right, now for this fall, because of what happened in, you know what, let me not skip ahead. There's one last rat tail here that I realized that I have. This is a mega shad, and this pattern is specific to sand eels. If I know that there's a hot sand eel bite going on, I will definitely be throwing this. It's a 2 ounce jig head, of course, so I can get it out. Gotta love this, gotta love that. All right, so based on the last video that I've made up in Cape Cod Canal with absurd blitzes all day long, you know, kind of made a slight discovery, so to speak, because when there are peanuts around, they're normally very finicky. And as if you recall in that video, I was the first one to hook up during the blitzes, and people were asking me, hey, what are you using? I was using the canal bait, which is the bunker pattern canal bait. Mine's got blued, bluefish destroyed it. So I used the head and I put an algag body on it. This is what I'm going to use during the fall, but it's a rather big bait and it's very heavy. You can cast this pretty far, but it's rather heavy to be using in such shallow water. But because I was able to do so fine or so well, I decided I'm going to continue on with that big bait presentation even when peanuts are around. You know, normally that's a big no-no, but as you can see, the fish were responding well to that and also to the fish lab. I will be using a fish lab off the canal this fall in the places that I like to fish. And I'm going to continue. I'm going to see if this continues to shine, man, because it's 5.5 ounces. But hey, if it did well in that shallow water next to the jetty, that water was like no more than 3 feet, and fish were responding to that. So I'm going to continue to use that. Now also, I'm going to use the Savage as well, because the Savage looks a lot like a sand eel, or a large sand eel, but you never know. I will be using the Savage as well for the fall of 2023. Does that wrap up everything in my bag Well, I believe it does. All right, what's in the side pouch here? I just have my pork rind pouch, but it's, of course, I have Fat Cow jig strips in the side. Now, one plug that is missing that I've tried to order, but is not here. You know, this plug, for some reason, either places say that they have it, and when I go to order it, they don't have it, which is going to be the Yo-Zori 3D glider twitch bait. That plug, oh man, I've used that plug in the fall and have done so well on it. I usually put a yellow dressed hook on it. I'll see if I can find the picture of it. And I've done pretty well, except on the canal. For whatever reason, the canal, these fish, they take on these behaviors sometimes where they'll completely ignore a plug on the canal. But outside of the canal, the plug gets a lot of love. And that's just one of them. The SP Minnow is another for me personally. But I will be getting that plug back as soon as I can. All right, so that wraps up all of the plugs that I will be using for the fall run of 2023. If you would like me to make any type of videos, please feel free to leave that in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, like the videos, share the videos. All right, so please remember to have a blessed day and peace out.